The latest installment in the India vs Australia cricketing rivalry kicks off today at Perth in Western Australia. In the last 2 decades or so, the India and Australia cricketing rivalry has fast emerged as the preeminent contest in Test match cricket. From Sachin Tendulkar's memorable duels with Shane Warne to VVS Lakshman's amazing exploits against the Aussies to the famous win by India at the iconic Gabba ground a few years back, this contest has given us so many memorable moments that has enthralled audiences not just in these two nations but across the cricketing world. The story we are going to tell you today, however, will take us back in time, in 1947, when the first ever tour of Australia by an Indian cricket team took place. This tour that started in the October of 1947 was originally supposed to be the last ever by a cricket team from undivided India. Those plans, however, went for a toss as the independence of the subcontinent, originally planned for June of 1948, was preponed to August 1947. It created major challenges for the BCCI because it was not just independence that was coming. Along with it came the pain of partition. The subcontinent was being divided into two nations, Pakistan and India. The cricketers, however, were quite oblivious of this. They were all determined to travel to Australia and make a good impression, and with good reason. The Australian team was led by none other than the legendary Sir John Bradman and had in its ranks illustrious names like Keith Miller, Ray Lindwall, Bill Johnston, Neil Harvey, and so on. One of the Indian players who was very keen to make an impression was a 20-year-old youth from Lahore. He had been earmarked as the biggest hope of Indian bowling on that tour. His name was Fazal Mahmood. In August of 1947, a training camp for the tour was scheduled in Pune. Even as large parts of northwestern India were engulfed in the flames of the tragic riots that accompanied partition, Fazal Mahmood made his way from Lahore in Punjab to Pune in western India. Thankfully, he completed his journey safely. But the camp didn't go off too well. There was tension in the air, although the cricketers were all concerned and focused on matters cricketing. But inclement weather, incessant rains, led to the camp being called off earlier than planned. The players now had to disperse. Fazal found himself in a strange predicament. When he had made his journey from Lahore to Pune, he was simply travelling from one town in India to another. But now, that was not the case. Lahore and Pune were in two different nations. India was no longer one, and Fazal Mahmood suddenly was a foreigner in a country that was only recently his own. It wasn't the best of times for a young Muslim male to make that long journey. The first leg of his travel involved taking a train from Pune to Bombay, from where he was supposed to travel by ship to the port town of Karachi, now in Pakistan. Fazal took a night train. He must have been worried knowing everything that was going around. And soon his worst fears came true. The train was stopped by an angry mob hell-bent on bloodthirst. The bloodthirsty mob rounded up Fazal, identifying him for what he was, and it seemed like the unthinkable was going to happen. But just then, one of Indian cricket's finest intervened. Colonel C.K. Nayudu was arguably the first superstar of Indian cricket. More than 20 years earlier, he had played a knock against the touring MCC side, which people talked about till then. He was also India's first cricket captain. At that point of time, he was acting as kind of a local guardian and was accompanying Fazal on that treacherous journey. Colonel Nayudu now stepped up. He picked up his bat and started swinging it in the same swashbuckling manner that he did in his playing days. At great risk to himself, sustaining wounds and cuts, he beat up the mob and forced them to retreat. By his great courage and determination, Colonel Nayudu averted a terrible tragedy. A shaken but safe Fazal was able to make the rest of the journey without any further incident and catch the ship that would take him back to his hometown. Fazal Mahmood's dreams of travelling to Australia with the Indian cricket team never materialised, but he did go on to become a true legend of Pakistan cricket and would also be their captain one day. Colonel C.K. Nayudu's immense bravery showed the great quality of sports that it does not divide but rather unites us.
If you enjoyed this, hit subscribe and turn on notifications for more deep dives into stories that matter.